a very warm welcome from Suffolk. I am delighted to be in Ipswich, the county town of Suffolk, with the fine folks from Kocurek excavators. My second trip here in about a year. I love it here, they can't keep me away. But there is another reason why we're here today. Now, Kocurek excavators celebrate, as you will have read in Demolition Hub's latest issue, their 40th anniversary. So I am here with Dave the founder, Dave Kocurek himself, the founder of Kocurek Excavators, to find out about his life and about what's going on now, the past, present and future. Dave, thank you for having me back.
Welcome, Ben. Welcome, Ben.
Well, it's like I'm part of the family here almost. You're a family business, we are, and
Exactly.
love to come here. But so I read Becky's piece, Rebecca Kelly. She wrote a piece, your CFO, in Demolition Hub. Very interesting. Quite a few elements that actually I hadn't found out about. I understand that the company was actually set up by yourself and your mother.
Yes, indeed.
What was the early stages? What led to that formation?
Mine had a previous business. I had never had worked for anyone. I've always worked for myself. I had a previous business which...
Within engineering?
Yes, indeed. I was bankrupt then with that, and started again. And my mother had to be the director of the company, so
Yep.
we started again and she was there. Previously she'd just been a housewife really, and that was the making of her really. She came to the fore and helped me with all the administration and accounting, invoice, all that sort of thing. And she became very well known. We rented machines at the time. Our main business then was rental of excavators, which we modified into special machines, long reach.
So there were mods going on from day one?
Right from day one. Right from day one. So they were mainly long reach machines for the water industry, the water board, and she became, strange but she became known as Mum, but to all our customers actually.
Oh, I love that.
Quite well thought of in the country, right across the country really. We didn't work overseas then, it was all in the UK. And the Water Authority was our main customer. And gradually, as industry changed, there was more and more demand for long reach machines, which weren't available from the OEMs really. And I love making things and building things, so it was right up my street to cut these machines about, and we grew from that really.
When you say you grew from that, how would you grow? I don't consider you a salesman, I could be wrong, you're certainly an engineer. Last time we met, the full overalls, everything.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the smart of Dave, but hey, you're a hard-working man. But who was out there pushing what Kocurek were able to do and what they were able to offer OEMs and particularly the demolition trade? How did that come about?
To be candid with you, Ben, no one really.
Okay.
It sells itself. At the time, there was sort of a need for the long reach, but they weren't available. So we were sort of filling that need, and that's how I like to think when I look back. That's how it was. I remember one of my great joys was to, as we had larger machines, was to go to site, and you're a site agent, you've perhaps got 2 or 3 excavators re-handling material, and we'd arrive on a lorry with this, at the time, very long excavator, and we'd sort of reach down into the hole and take the material right out. And you got a hire, you know.
Wow, that looks good. I want a bit of that.
Give me that machine. And to a certain extent, the same with the mini excavators. We used to drive through London with the mini excavators, which was our earlier time. We'd drive through London, and Irishmen would flag us down and say, "But Jesus, I need that machine," because it was so new, innovative. They hadn't been seen before.
But they could tell what it was and what you put on it just by driving past, presumably.
So really, in the early days, we were in high demand, and we had good times, and you could hire them very easily. And then obviously these people started to have their own machines, and the OEMs started to supply them. Obviously they could see a bit of a niche there, and that business, I wouldn't say tailed off, but became much more competitive. And when I look at the situation today, what people are earning from a long reach excavator compared to what we it is frightening really. My sort of financial look at things, we would typically pay for a machine in about a year from the rental. And I think these days it's going to be 3 or 4 years, maybe 5
and the rest,
years, So that was with long reach excavators really. And as I say, I love making things, I love having a factory workshop, and I was right in my element.
Yeah, I bet.
So come back to what you were saying, I mean, we didn't have to sell it, it sold ourselves. And that's really been a lot of the way our business operates. We don't really sell it. And I also feel sometimes people warm to that, because they're not being sold machines.
No.
They have a need for it.
No.
And as you can see here, we can really supply and give it to them. So we do have a salesman now in 2023, and we have had for some years, but he's more of a technical role. he's not actually going out there and pounding.
We're talking about Fred here, of course.
Fred,
Name drop Fred. We must mention Fred.
We've only got the one. But
I was reading that on your website, Dave. Sorry to interrupt. I was reading that on your website, actually, pertinent point. In the old days, it might actually have been in Becky's column that she did for us. An old quote would be a page. Now it's a dozen pages long. Yeah, I'm sure. Is that one of many changes you've noticed in the 40 years?
The change everywhere really, but yeah, certainly we did it before on a handshake, and that's page 84. Now it runs to pages and pages, and sadly, I think the whole country, everything is more adversarial now. There's less sort of, well, that'll be okay, Dave, or here's a deal, Ben. So we have to be more careful. And generally speaking, our customers, I believe, have all got good intention, and they're not trying to rip us off or being a pain in the neck to us. But some of them perhaps are a bit ambitious, and we need to tie that up financially. Years ago we wouldn't. These days also we're dealing obviously with someone with the sons and the successors in these companies, or they've been bought out and they're national companies and that. And you obviously deal with them differently to when I used to see the father.
Of course.
I named lots of them who are well known to us both. And you'd see the father and he'd say, come on Dave, what are we going to do? And we'd have a deal. But those days are gone. Now it's all much more, I wouldn't say bureaucratic, that's perhaps the wrong word, but it's much more official, much more regimented.
But of course it protects you as well. It protects you for anyone negating on a contract or anything. There are pluses and minuses, but I understand you want that connection. Oh, hi Dave, hi John. You were working together for years. Don't write it on the back of a fag packet. That's what we want.
Well, those days are gone. And technically also, because the machines are much larger, much more complex, we have to be more careful what we're doing. We're constantly, as you know, our sort of reputation of pushing the boundaries a bit all the time, but we have to push them sensibly. We don't want to have any accidents or supply something that's not the great sort of info fit for its purpose. So we just are very careful what we're doing, and it's been fully researched, fully documented. And also now we've got far more people in the drawing office, for example, engineers. I think we've 5 engineers working away with. Before it's just myself. Yeah.
Which I suppose would tie into when you would have moved from your former premises to where we are now, the old BT site.
Well, we were, in the traditional farmyard years ago.
That's right.
I shouldn't use the word, these sort of pigs in shit we talk about them. We
have a mature audience.
I was very happy there, but I hadn't realised. Probably our customers didn't think the environment was good as it should be. The product was good.
Yeah.
And when we came here, I was quite surprised actually. We had this fairly modest factory at the time, which we built from scratch on a bare piece of land, and I was quite surprised how the customers suddenly we were sort of official. Actually, the machines were different. Working conditions were better, perhaps, but the machine, the result, the product, the end product was no different. But they sort of thought we were great because we got a nice car park and got toilets and canteens and all the normal
running
things.
water.
Yeah, exactly, running water, yeah, more or less, yeah. As I say, previously we were in the farmyard. So yeah, that perhaps we were, the two sort of coincided almost, really. I think we've been on this site 25 years now. So
about 94, was it? About 94?
Yeah.
And you've since doubled the size of this
Well,
site.
quadrupled really, from the initial factory, yes. We had, in recent years, we bought another site and we toyed with sort of building a new factory. But to be candid, it's in hindsight, it's out of our league to do that. Really, the tremendous upset of sort of moving all this to the new site, and I don't think I can face it really, although I want to. So we're trying now to do some more building work here and try and extend this factory again.
I'm trying to think. We have the room. I don't think I've walked round the far north side.
We cover about 2 acres, of which probably about 1.25 acres is undercover. So it's quite a big area.
And you've got permission to build what you want on there?
Permission's not a problem. The problem for our, we are, and that's what changed as well. We've turned there, we've given up the plant, as you probably know, and we're fully manufacturing for many years now, probably 20, 25 years now. We don't do any rental. The problem with the manufacturing side, which a lot of your, the demolition customers wouldn't really understand exactly. It is just so much dependent on the infrastructure in the factory. The building, the site is sort of irrelevant. We've got overhead cranes, we've got heavy plant, machines, installations, and that's what makes it so difficult to move to another site. If it was sort of a warehousing operation, we sort of take our forklifts and depart. all that, you know. But here we've got machines that are built into the factory. We've got gas lines, and they're just it's amazing, really.
They're getting higher and higher. I mean, I think it was 71 metre the cap.
76.
76
is the
but
height.
there's no reason we can't exceed that.
I think the practicality is one is transport, an issue of transporting such a big machine.
Of course. Yeah.
And secondly, we find above that height, or at that height, it's getting more and more difficult for the operator actually to really engage with the tool. That's to say, we can have cameras and all those sort of modern things, but you still don't have the feel of it. You've got to, you know, you're here in your cabin, and up there 76 metres away is the attachment. So I think that's one of the things that limits height. There have been one or two of our sort of, what shall I say, minor competitors have had a dabble at sort of 90 metres and that, but without success. The machine...
That's an ego thing, surely. That's like the first person to the moon. You know, it's.
Well, yes, we had some years where our customers were ego-driven in the UK. You know, so here we have Ben, here's a 40 metre. Thomas over there wanted a 45, then Ben wanted a 50. So we did gradually up the height like that. But really, where we are now is sort of probably height-wise, it's probably about right. But now the trend is much more, and certainly over the last probably 8 years to 10 years, it's much more to heavy machines, really heavy machines, with some massive attachments. And I mean, we typically spoke of a 2.5 ton attachment. 10, 15, even 25 ton now is not unusual, but obviously you need a much bigger base machine. And it then comes back to the transport issue. And obviously in the UK, our UK customers are blessed with very relaxed sort of transport regulations, really. You go into
different
Europe.
to the States then, or more
the
Europe?
States is terrible. I mean, the land of the big and the free, and they're so tight on their transport regulations.
Right, sure.
You know, divisible load is about 60 tons, non-divisible is about 60 tons there. Here we can go 100 tons with a following wind. Makes a big difference because the base, the upper structure of the machine hovers around that weight. So we then end up making a machine which can be dismantled and comes apart, and so we take it in bits. You know.
Anything to get past those regs, eh?
Europe.
We touched on the international aspect, North America, Europe. Where did that come from? You truly are, for us, for my company, for my brand, for the industry, you are the market leaders in bespoke excavator, front-end equipment. That's how we look at you. Certainly the best in terms of what your clients say about you. I'm not going to name any of them, but they're both sides of the pond. Well, we do a lot of the NDA,
no, thanks,
and it's you know, not to demean it. We're in Suffolk. We're miles away from where I live on the south coast, a very sleepy little village down there, and we're up here in Suffolk. How did your name spread so well across the pond, in particular? Because it is a long way away, but in many metrics.
It's pretty clear. I mean, the Demolition, we were fortunate really because we, with the guidance of Mr. Cantillon, shall we say, possibly, or partly, we went into an industry which has actually got quite a small number of players. UK-wise, you'd see perhaps 200 predominant players with another 200 smaller companies. So the market is 400. That's actually tiny. And the same applies in Europe, well, all over the world, really. The number of demolition companies is actually quite small. So word of mouth travels well with them. And funnily enough, in the demolition industry, there's some really good associations, and you know,
NFDC,
you remind me,
yeah.
But yeah, there's some really good association, and word travels with it. And I like to think, perhaps it's being a bit conceited or something, I don't know, but I like to think because we've been fair with our customers, we've supplied them good equipment, we've done what they wanted, we've been accommodating on warranty, we've not been nasty with them, you know, we've tried to look after them. I want to see them working. Word of mouth has spread, and it really is by word of mouth generally. We've had a very old salesman working for us, as you know, Ron Cullen, you remember, he unfortunately passed away now, and now we've got Fred. But it's largely by word of mouth. We as a small company, we can't announce ourselves to the world. It's impossible.
Just a note to my advertising team, people buy people, you see. I've been saying it for years. People buy
No, I agree. So to come back to what you're saying, how did we get to be so international? I think really by word of mouth, candidly speaking. And it's a massive joy to me that someone on the other side of the world in Australia, I mean, surely there must be some blacksmiths between here and Perth.
Incredible.
It is astonishing, and they keep coming back.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So possibly we've done right. We've kept them out. We've proved to be a good supplier to them. And the fact that they come from across the other side of the world, from a lump of iron in a
It
way,
speaks volumes, doesn't it?
it's quite pleasing.
Yeah. We've touched on very much so the excellence of what you do, the customer services, your ethos on how you would be sold to and how you sell, or not as the case may be, you don't even need to in some aspects. What I want to come on to now is the family aspect, because that was always in the back of my mind when I think of Kocurek excavators, the family. As I alluded to earlier, your mother and yourself started the business up 40 years ago. Mary, your sister's involved?
Yep, I mean, in broad terms, I've got 9 of the family here now. My sister has joined us a considerable number of years ago. Mother obviously gradually sort of semi-retired. It was quite difficult actually to tell her that she could no longer do the invoicing, etc. It's quite a tricky one actually.
My mother does my invoicing.
Really?
Honestly.
It's the best.
Honestly.
Actually, but there'll come a time it was different. You know, the business was growing obviously with more and more people, and the old sort of mom and pop type attitude was perhaps not quite appropriate anymore. But it was quite a hard job to sort of gradually take that work. Very painful actually. But yeah, with 9 of the family here, we've basically got a family member sort of in each department, broadly speaking. But my mainstay is my sister, who works with us, obviously in accounting. You know, sisters keep an eye on them.
Totally just, yeah.
I get my knuckles wrapped when I want to buy a new machine or something.
Or an oil, or a welding rig.
Exactly. I don't think we'll be buying that one actually. But yeah, so they're there, and my nephews, mainly my son works here. Obviously, he sort of looks after one area. My nephews look after another, and my niece Rebecca is looking after the money as well.
She looks after us as well. Rebecca, Becky, as I'm familiar with, she's very good on emails and sorting us out what ads she's doing, what awards they're going in for, the British Demolition Awards and everything. And I've just met Sam downstairs. Top to toe in oil, grease and everything, and we're great. I really like Sam. He takes very much after you, doesn't he? He's got that
his pet.
Engineering mind.
Now I must share something with you, Ben. I did, when I left school at an early age, I did work for 1 month with my father, who was a builder and sort of bought property in that, and I just couldn't stand it. His name's Carl, right, and it was Carl's way or no way. Okay. So I'm sure you sort of understand was reading it. It was dreadful. So I had to leave him. So I had a month. But I always thought to myself, if I had a son or had a family, I would make sure that I tried to guide them, of course, but try to let them have their head, if you see what I mean. And I will say, my son Sam, I'm sometimes embarrassed with myself because he's actually come up with a better idea than me, which is quite hard to take, really. But the important thing is that he's allowed. I mean, he's already 26 now, but I have allowed him to go with that. And of course, sometimes he's been wrong. And he's been embarrassed in the factory and actually found that was the wrong thing to do. But I swore to myself I would allow him to learn. And
you found that freedom has sort of cultivated him to be the man he is now?
Yeah, going there. He's a lot to learn, and they've all a lot to learn. But one of my my 2 greatest joys really is that we are known all over the world. It was never my intention for our name to be so well known, but sort of by accident it was. And the other thing is, and it sounds a bit controversial, just to see the family taking over the business. Yeah. I'm not aiming to retire because I don't think I could retire. I just love doing it. But it is really lovely to see.
How old are you,
68 now.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time, exactly. But it's a great joy to just see them doing it, making their mistakes. And sometimes you have to wrap their knuckles.
Last part, I'd like to speak to where does Kocurek Excavators go from here? We've spoken about the past, the potential of what's going on now, off camera, but what's the future? What do you see? Is there going to be a Kocurek modified excavator on the moon, for example, or Mars? Or what are your goals? What are your ridiculous goals? What's the
goals really?
Project?
Well, a number of goals for me really. One, we are always looking at other projects, and apart from demolition machines, we do some very deep excavation, telepoles. We do some other work, so we're not utterly
for piling and
for piling and deep excavations, particularly back to the long reach really. We still do some long reach machines and all sorts really, so we want to keep expanding that. We want to deal as much as we can internationally, because it could be said we've sort of filled up the UK with demolition machines. The scope is more limited, bigger machines, and we want to keep the company profitable. That's from the family. I want the company to be profitable. We want to avoid any dodgy jobs. And for me, I want it so I would like it to be such that my family can run the business.
So you want to create a gold standard that there's I suppose a blueprint from A to Z of how to run Kocurek excavators well, how to potentially expand there, that the rest of the family can continue on.
They continue with that, yeah. And
Whilst bringing their own ideas, of
we're
course.
learning over the years. We're learning how to deal with these jobs. I mean, these are, and I'm not blowing our own trumpet, please don't think that, but we are a tiny little company here in Suffolk, really. And the jobs, my people, that's our staff and our family, the jobs that we undertake are absolutely massive. And in terms of their technical detail and what's involved, the risk, the CMA, everything. And I have a quiet little chuckle to myself, really, because even mighty caterpillars and other people of this world, they don't do that. I'm constantly astonished that we do it, and they don't. I mean, we work, as you know, we work for all the,
You certainly do.
everyone really, work for everyone. And the fact that the company of, shall we say, Liebherr's standing over in Colmar, Orange, the fact that Liebherr, who I hold in absolute highest esteem as being engineers of the finest quality, really, the fact that they entrust that work to us. And I'm not talking about fitting a new radio in my car, I'm talking about taking the car apart, just utterly rebuilding it into something else. The fact that a company of that standard entrusts the work to us is extremely pleasing.
Well, it's very humbling to hear as well that
Well,
you
it
feel
is,
that
it
way,
is.
but you need to recognise that they are taking you on board. They obviously respect what you do in your engineering capabilities and obviously past prototypes and big excavators that have worked and done the job for them in the past.
It's been a great thing, but I must say, I do find it very pleasing that we have reached that. What I want the family to do is to maintain that. There must be no sliding back or anything. Maintain that and build on that. And when we look at the world's absolutely enormous. We think it's so small these days, don't we, with the media, but actually it's vast, the amount of people and the amount of machines that are needed. So I hope we'll grow that. We're constantly looking for new iron. One of my main mantras is to find another product as well as the demolition equipment.
Okay.
So we're doing demolition, probably a product associated to it. We're looking at one or two as regards breaking rock and that sort of thing. There's other things going on.
I think I know what you mean now. I'm not allowed to talk about
No,
that,
we're not.
and I'm not allowed to film it, but I know what you mean.
But certainly we're looking for other products. And one of the interesting things I've learned as a manufacturer, it's absolutely brilliant fun making these bespoke machines. I love it. But the real money is in something that repeats itself. That's one of the issues. One of the great things we've achieved is that we've actually made money and managed to stay in business, effectively doing sort of bespoke work, which can be quite challenging. Whereas when we have something that repeats itself, within time, not anything boring obviously, but something that repeats itself, there is more money to be made. And one of the things I want to give to the family who are running this place is say, this is a product we're going to have, and this is the product you can repeat.
Well, this is the blueprint I was talking about. We've done it once, it worked. Now we don't need to buy the materials to cast
Exactly.
it.
So that's one of the aims we must have. And as you may not know, I love working with wood because I work with metal and grease and all day long, and I love working with wood.
You have I bet you have a wood lathe at home.
Oh, exactly.
I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that. But, I'm an ex-engineer years ago, and
I've recently built up at the farm. I've recently built myself another workshop.
Okay.
The workshop downstairs from the son Sam. He does all his jobs there, and I've got an upstairs workshop.
Fantastic.
And one of my dreams really is that I'd actually get up in the morning and go to my woodworking workshop
Wow.
rather than coming to the factory.
Metal, yeah.
No, I'll ring Becky up and say, "That's going to be my workshop today, Becky. You carry on with the good work." But that's just looking forward. But the main thing is to sustain the business, and to do that we need another product. I think that's very simply put. We can keep on with the demolition machines, and they've been the making of it.
It's really great. You're hungry to continue to grow. At 68, which is young, it is young. Plenty more years left in you yet, but you're still hungry to find that equal element to dominate like you have done in the demolition industry. And that's wonderful.
I don't perhaps like the word dominate. I know, as you know, we make the telescopic machines, and many years ago, some years ago, one of our customers, his son finished his university degree and joined the father in the business, and was first day there was set to work to look into telescopic arms to see which would be an appropriate one for that company to buy, you see.
Okay.
So the sun went off and it was reported back to me. I presume it's reasonably true, but it has a lot of truth in it. Apparently the sun come back and he found that there'd been one telescopic demolition machine made in the States and another one in Europe. And at the time we'd made 96. So clearly we were doing something right. And I just like to think that's
It's not an accident. It's not an accident.
No. So there we are. Ben.
Dave, well, I think we both come
As you
to
know,
a very good end. Well, no, you're about to say you could talk all day, and I could listen to you all day. I could.
Well, I'm a bit of a gas player.
You and me both. But you're a fascinating man. We're going to run this on our YouTube channels, of course, but also we're going to be doing an interview in the magazine with Dave, picking up a few of the more key elements that I've either missed because we've been waffling on. But there's a lot more bang to the buck with this, and we're really looking forward to joining the celebrations of 40 years of the brilliance of Kocurek Excavator. So Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
You're a gentleman. Thank you very much.